People often confuse the terms game and simulation, and while they do have a number of similarities, they are not exactly the same thing. A simulation is a realistic, controlled risk environment where learners can practice specific behaviors and experience the impacts of their decisions. The goal of a simulation is to be as realistic as possible so that the person using the simulation feels as if they are experiencing the real thing. But the simulation is less expensive and usually a lot safer than the real thing. So, one classic example is the flight simulator. That's a classic prime example of a simulation. But also think about software simulations where you've learned to use the software in an environment that seems like the real software, but actually is just a series of screen captures where you enter in data. It looks and feels realistic, but it's not the real thing. When you apply a simulation to a sales situation or what's known as soft skills like sales, leadership, and negotiation skills, those are called social simulators. It's a bit harder to create a social simulator because the interactions are not predictable and the software to create realistic people with whom a learner can interact is, still not there yet. The people who are simulated still look, a little funny, a little strange. Simulations tend to work well with machines, tools, and software, but not so well with people. Games, on the other hand, can contain elements of actual experiences, but the degree of realism can be considerably less. A game usually is an abstraction of reality and contains grains of realism, but is not 100% real. A good example would be the game Monopoly. The game gives you the essence of buying real estate and a sense of how Monopoly would work, but playing Monopoly won't help you learn how to buy apartment buildings or set up your own Monopoly. It's an abstraction designed to teach broader concepts. Games also usually involve elements of fantasy and ways of keeping score like points and a chance to win. And in a flight simulator, nobody wins, they just land the plane safely. However, simulations often have elements of games. For example, if you're in a flight simulator and you are asked to race to the nearest airport against a person in another simulator, then that's a form of a game. If you get points for successfully entering a new customer into a software simulator, then that's a game element added to the simulation. Even if you are timed, that's a game element. The line between simulations and games can become blurry, and that's okay. The main thing to keep in mind as you develop instruction is the consideration of what level do you need the learning to occur. If a learner needs to follow steps without deviation and accurately every single time using equipment or software, then a simulation works well. If, on the other hand, there are variations and nuances and you want to focus on the concepts involved in the learning, then often games are a better choice. Careful consideration of your instructional goals will help you decide if a game or a simulation is a better match for what you want to accomplish.